Right now, they're the biggest boy band in the world.
People knew they were going to be successful, but they just did not realise quite how big they were going to be.
And all around the globe, this exciting new pop sensation are leaving adoring fans screaming for more.
On social media, they've got 35,000 new followers a day.
And we just feel so grateful to, all the fans who've put us where they are.
Created on the X Factor, their rise to fame has proved both meteoric and historic.
Within 3 to 4 months, they were the biggest music phenomenon in America.
This programme reveals their real story.
I remember Simon Cowell taking me to one side and saying, keep your eye on these boys, Clemmy, mark my words, they're going to be big.
Plus all the latest hot news and gossip.
They came into the office, they did a web chat, it crashed the site. There were over 35,000 people that were trying to talk to them at that one point.
And all the truth behind their headline romances.
Going out with kind of the darling of the American country music scene was a real coup for him.
Then he was dating Leona Lewis.
An Australian waitress called Courtney Webb alleges that she slept with Zayn. Zayn vehemently denies it. However, there's only so much you can deny it when she's taking pictures of him sleeping.
This is the incredible story of One Direction. Unified, unstoppable, and right now, reaching for the stars. Let's face it, there are boy bands and there are boy bands. But in 2010, it was London which gave the world one of the biggest new groups in music history.
Probably one of the biggest global pop bands of all time.
When Simon Cowell sprinkled his unique fairy dust over this particular band, no one could have imagined just how big they'd become.
He crafted them together as a band, unleashed them on the world in such an intelligent and savvy way that they became really the music story.
As One Direction spearheads the new British invasion in the US with their feel-good music, secrets behind their individual personalities and their romances continue to make headlines everywhere.
He was getting text messages from other girls. He was on tour. She didn't know where he was.
Harry is a young lad with every woman in the world wanting to be with him.
Jettisoned to international stardom by the power of social media, One Direction has become a worldwide pop sensation like no other.
Are we having a good time so far? Are you having a good time so far? Yes! Are you? We're having a good time.
They were really taking the world by storm before they'd released anything. Twitter sphere was going mad when they were still on X Factor.
They came into the Heat office to do a web chat on our website, Heat World. We tweeted about it that morning. By the afternoon when they were coming in, the fact that they were coming in was trending worldwide. People knew they were going to be successful, but they just did not realise quite how big they were going to be. We had hordes of girls waiting outside. They did a web chat. It crashed the site. There were over 35,000 people that were trying to talk to them at that one point. And, from that moment, we just knew they were going to be absolutely huge.
This type of fan mania all fitted in perfectly with Simon Cowell's vision to conquer the same audience as Justin Bieber.
The timing was just right for One Direction. Justin Bieber was just exploding and taking over the music world. And the thought of having 5 Justin Biebers together was just a marketing man's dream.
So you would think that they'd be rivals, but actually I don't think they're really great friends, but I know Niall has hung out with Justin Bieber before, and Justin Bieber refers to them quite a lot in interviews, and I think he's a big fan of theirs.
Is that a showbiz friendship, or is that a real friendship?
It's a real friendship, yeah, but it's
we know him through
we know him through the showbiz, so it was just like a bit of a weird...
Oh, I see what you mean.
I actually think it's harder on him, though, because, being a solo artist and all, we've got each other to lean on, whereas he's just had himself, so he's done really well.
When the boys first touched down in America, only several months after the X Factor, the fans there had already reached fever pitch.
before One Direction had even performed once in America. They had a huge following.
Their fans had already completely bought into the concept through Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, being able to watch all of their performances and their auditions on X Factor in the UK.
So how did the One Direction story really begin?
One Direction came about because they auditioned individually for the X Factor 2010. They wanted to be singers in their own right.
It was quite a shock when all 5 of them were rejected at the boot camp stage. There were tears, they really were all gutted. I think from pretty early on, Simon Cowell and the executives at Psycho, his record label, had decided that they believed there was more power that year in forming their own boy band, sort of an X Factor supergroup.
However, Nicole Scherzinger gets the credit because we saw on the X Factor that it was her idea to put them together in a boy group. I hope they've all sent her flowers or given her some kind of expensive gift.
With Harry, Zayn, Niall, Liam and Louis now officially known as One Direction, the boys started to find their feet as a band.
Well, I was obviously covering the X Factor for work. I'd go down to the studio and meet the boys. And I think the first time I met them, I just thought, oh, they stand out, there's something about them that's quite interesting, they're good-looking lads, and there was a bit of a buzz around them backstage very, very early on. And obviously as they progressed through the competition, I remember Simon Cowell taking me to one side and saying, keep your eye on these boys, Clemmy, mark my words, they're going to be big.
When they came to the judges' houses in their series, he was absolutely blown away by the fact that they had such a good rapport, they got along so well, and they had naturally kind of worked out the harmonies of the group.
Within 4 weeks, the boy band was Simon Cowell's last act in the competition, and response from the fans had already gone sky high.
I was actually backstage a lot on X Factor that year. I remember sitting in the canteen one day, having dinner, and the guys were on a table next to me, and all of a sudden we could hear all of this commotion and start hearing noises on the roof. And the security guards rushed in and moved the boys out of the canteen. The fans had climbed up trees, these were teenage girls, and then got from the trees onto the roof of the X Factor canteen.
The band was already causing chaos behind the scenes, with Harry leading the way.
When he was on the show, it was very well known that he was kind of snogging a lot of people behind the scenes. They'd kind of find him in, like, cupboards. I remember one of my friends said, oh yeah, we found Harry in a cupboard snogging some girl today.
Everyone wanted to hang out with them. So all of the other acts, the sort of producers, the behind-the-scenes staff, the makeup girls, they all were really drawn to these 5 guys because they were just so fun to hang around.
How are you finding all the female attention? Harry, let's start with you.
I think it's always very flattering to hear, things. But, he loves it. Yeah, you can't not enjoy it because it's nice, I guess.
They appealed to everyone. Friends of mine, like 35-year-old women, would be like, oh, I quite fancy some of One Direction. Is it really bad? Mums would think it was their guilty pleasure, and that, at the same time, they'd be quite happy for their daughter to like them as well. So they just appealed to all ages.
With 1D fever gripping the nation, for Simon Cowell, it was all going in the right direction.
You could tell Simon knew he was onto a good thing when he was on the show. They were his last act. He did not seem bothered at all. Simon is very competitive, and the fact that he only had one act left in the competition, he was literally leaning back in his chair. You could see the pound signs and the dollar signs are rolling around in his eyes. He was just thinking, I don't care if this band win.
One Direction got through to the top 3. They came 3rd, which is good, but there were 2 ahead of them, Rebecca Ferguson and Matt Cardle, who went on to win. Nobody really thought that the people who came 3rd would also be the group that took over the world.
With X Factor over and One Direction finishing 3rd, all eyes were now on how the band would fare without the show's very public spotlight and millions of adoring TV fans.
One of the things that critics have noted is the fact that these boys really can sing. Of course, there's some auto-tuning in concerts and on albums, but generally speaking, you know, the boys really all have a talent and they all have a good voice.
People do worry that they're just some manufactured Simon Cowell puppets.
I don't remember people saying any of these things.
But actually, they are musical. They can all sing and they can play instruments and they do all really passionately love music.
And then the second thing was their ordinariness. Now, that might sound quite crazy now because, of course, none of them live an ordinary life. But they were all such ordinary teenage lads, and they acted like that too. They were completely enthralled with the process they were going through. They were mates. In fact, it could have been disastrous if they hadn't have got on and if there'd been sort of a lot of interpersonal rivalry between the members. But that never happened, and very, very quickly they were inseparable. I mean, they would walk around backstage at the X Factor almost as if they were one person.
And Simon Cowell was certainly leaving nothing to chance. With Westlife announcing their retirement, he needed a replacement fast. And he knew exactly who he wanted to guide 1D to a #1. He had thought long and hard about his next move.
One of the very smart things that Simon Cowell did with this group from the very beginning was to bring in really an A-list team of people to work with them. He really spent a lot of money at the very beginning in making sure the people around the band, people working with the band, writing songs for the band, were the best that was out there. He pulled in a lot of favors. You know, Kelly Clarkson got famous from American Idol, so she was one of the first calls he made. She's a huge name, and he got her to sing with the boys on their debut album. He also got Ed Sheeran to come in and participate. And if you think about it, an unknown pop band that no one's ever heard of in America, getting a listen on radio versus one that's a debut with Kelly Clarkson is a whole different kettle of fish. And Simon was very savvy in making sure he had some of his powerful friends support the boys right from the very beginning.
Savan Kotecha was brought in to work on the boys' first album. Now, he's a big player in the music world. Currently, he works in A&R at Psycho, Simon Cowell's label. But also, he's worked with Usher. He's worked with lots of UK acts, Alexandra Burke, Leona Lewis, JLS. Simon Cowell rates him, and no wonder. He really gets results. He gets those #1s. So far, to date, he's sold 70 million singles and albums across the world. And, you know, it was, if you think One Direction are serious contenders, you're going to bring in someone like Savan to make the most of them.
His songs have won many awards, but his single with One Direction was to prove one of his greatest successes ever.
The one thing they really needed was a great song and a really big hit pop song that could transcend what they'd done on X Factor. And What Makes You Beautiful is actually one of the best pop songs to emerge over the last 5 years. The fact that they sampled Grease right near the start of the song was an instant hook. It made it instantly familiar.
What Makes You Beautiful is a magical song because the lyrics show that they're talking to every single girl. What makes you beautiful? So that you can pretend it's you they're talking to. And that's what it's about.
I remember when That's What Makes You Beautiful first came out, it was released without the video. And so there was this real anticipation that built because you heard the song, but you didn't see them singing the song. But the powerful thing about it was that the lyrics were released. It's the lyrics in a lot of One Direction songs that I think are part of the key to their success because they really tap into the insecurities of their teenage audience. So I think one of the lines was, "You're insecure, I don't know what for." And that instantly makes teenagers go weak at the knees because it's like, they know me.
It's a very catchy song. It's bubblegum pop at its finest. The song is all about how special and extraordinary this young woman is, who doesn't even know she's beautiful.
And then the video as well just showed them larking around. We didn't want to see One Direction sort of doing NSYNC or Backstreet Boys group choreography. It was all just about them having fun.
I was actually the first journalist to be played their first song, What Makes You Beautiful. Everyone in my office was fascinated by them, kind of trying to play it cool and not really look at One Direction. And I remember Harry kind of shoulder rolling along to the song and Niall was clapping along, and they were so proud and so pleased with it. And that was really special.
The minute that What Makes You Beautiful came out, we all just went, oh my God. And that single was pretty much the pinnacle of pop. It was perfect in every way, shape and form. A song that could go globally, universally, as far as possible. #1 in hundreds of countries. I mean, it was just the best record for them to explode out with.
Every girl wants to be told they're beautiful, and here are 5 great-looking boys telling them exactly that. It's a masterclass in how to write a great song for millions of girls who want to be adored.
What Makes You Beautiful was a huge hit, smashing straight into #1 in countries right across the globe.
It could have ended up being a disaster if the songs weren't right, if it wasn't the catchy, radio-friendly, happy, amazing album that it was. It would have all flopped. So Simon had all his kind of pieces lined up to make sure it was a success.
It's all about quality, you know?
It was one of the strongest boy band debut releases in all time. And there were actually loads of potential songs from that album that weren't released but could have been hit singles, and that is always a sign of a very good pop album.
But it was when the boys released their debut album, Up All Night, that their popularity really soared into the stratosphere. Once again, fortune found them reaching for the stars.
It takes some British bands or solo artists months and months and months to break America. Quite often, they can put in those months and months, and then it's completely unsuccessful. I remember actually interviewing One Direction just before they were about to head to America for the first time. And actually, at that point, they were pretty nervous about actually whether it would come to anything or not. It was very much they felt they were dipping their toe in the water, didn't have any high expectations.
The first time they performed live in America on the Today Show, a lot of people were still saying, wait, who are these guys? And when they saw the number of thousands of screaming American fans who had slept out on the street, some of them all night, in sleeping bags to get a good spot, there was a lot of surprise.
Remarkably, in 2012, the album went straight to #1 in America, making One Direction the first British pop band in history to achieve a #1 in the US with their first album.
You hear from PRs and management team, oh, my client's going to be massive in America, there's a huge buzz about them. And 9 times out of 10, it's complete rubbish, and 4 people in America are standing outside their hotel waiting for them. So I remember flying over there thinking, oh God, here we go again. But actually, within minutes of being parked outside their hotel and seeing hundreds of girls and a few kind of weary mums standing outside, I realised it was a bit different.
For many, the American fans' response to the British band echoed the crowd hysteria shown to the Beatles nearly half a century ago. Both the fans and the 1D boys couldn't get enough of it.
It's incredible. I mean, we can't believe we've come over to the US and, you know, we've got fans waiting outside our hotel and stuff. It's unbelievable. We never expected anything like this. The fans have been absolutely incredible.
They thought it was ridiculous and crazy and couldn't believe their luck, really. But they work so hard, so just their opinion, their mind, their kind of thought process really is just keep working, keep trying, don't take anything for granted, and this may all end tomorrow, so enjoy it for what it is now.
Simon Cowell was like the cat who got the cream. It seems he really did have the Midas touch. But the international success of Up All Night is no accident. 1D's clean-cut image in America has been carefully crafted and cultivated by Team Cowell.
From the very beginning, from their first trip overseas to the US, there were very strict rules in place. Simon got them all personal trainers. They were put on special diets. He wanted them to look healthy and fit and in shape. They were banned from drinking. They were banned, obviously, from drugs. They were banned from, you know, picking up groupies and bringing them back to the hotel. All the kinds of things that you associate, particularly with Justin Bieber, say now, or kind of teen pop stars who are fighting the image and want to be cool. He didn't want any of that. In music today, there's so much raunch, there's so much filth, and I think parents are really struggling with what they can allow their children to listen to. One Direction has really filled that gap nicely, and they've been well rewarded for doing that.
One Direction's Up All Night tour was sold out within minutes of release. But what is it about a 1D concert that makes it so special?
One Direction tours have already been hugely successful. Obviously, they sold out the O2 in London 10 times, also put on sold-out performances at Madison Square Gardens in New York.
First time I went, it was the Madison Square Gardens concert, which obviously is a huge deal for them anyway. And I remember someone from the record label handing me a pair of earplugs and saying, "You will need these." And I thought, oh, don't be ridiculous. And within a minute, I'd relented and shoved the earplugs in, because the noise from these screaming girls is incredible.
On stage, there's a lot of fun. They talk quite a bit, they play games with each other, they prank each other. There's some interactive sections within the show where they get people from the audience to tweet in, and they put the tweets up on a big screen. So I guess what I would say is that when you're going to a One Direction concert, you're getting more than just songs. You're sort of buying into the whole experience, because that's what the fans want. They don't just love One Direction songs, they love the personality of the band, and they want to be part of the band and part of their experience.
It's interesting that they don't learn any dance routines, so they almost pride themselves in the fact that they're not this choreographed, slick machine. They are genuine and real, and I think that really appeals to their fans. So they're bouncing around, they're full of energy, and if you're in a concert at any moment, Harry Styles could be looking at you as a potential new pull, which he has said he'd happily date a fan.
There is no standout lead singer. You don't have a Chris Martin Coldplay situation or a Robbie Williams Take That situation. Each of these boys is uniquely talented. Nobody's trying to outshine the other. And in certain countries, Harry's the star, certain countries, Niall's the star. They don't fight for that position. The problem with boy bands has traditionally been that one becomes more popular, like Robbie, than the others, and gets a little bit of an ego, and things start to implode. There is absolutely no indication of anything like that in this group, and as long as they can keep that together, I think they're going to be around for years to come.
It's definitely been one of my favourite gigs, so thank you very much for that.
On both sides of the Atlantic, One Direction are a true 21st century internet phenomenon.
There is a massive question about, would One Direction be as successful as they are now if they had been formed in the 90s? And I think the answer is no.
I remember speaking at length with Liam about social media, and he very much credits social media for their success and for the speed with which they got to where they did.
With their fan base growing daily on social networking sites like Facebook and Twitter, it brings them ever closer to their millions of adoring fans.
Each boy, on average, gains 35,000 new followers on Twitter a day, which is ridiculous. All the boys tweet themselves, so that again makes fans think that they're talking directly with them, and they feel like they have some kind of relationship with the band.
Their fans genuinely feel that they're close to each of these band members because they're talking to them. It's like you're talking to a friend. They can get a response back from Harry Styles. If they tweet him a picture, he might tweet back, he might retweet it. And that is such a powerful thing for a band to have.
And Zayn in particular is regarded as something of a philosopher on the web.
I tend to think quite philosophically. So I just try to get that out across on Twitter. But yeah, when I'm talking to fans and stuff, I do just like to be myself.
And he even says he's open to dating fans.
I don't think you should ever pursue anyone or basically date someone based on whether or not they're a fan. If they're a fan, then it's cool. But
it wouldn't stop me if they're a fan.
No, it wouldn't stop me if they're a fan, no. If they find someone attractive, I'd let them know.
I do get the feeling with One Direction's management that there is a bit of an onus for the guys not to be too one-woman men, because the fans want to feel like they have a chance.
Global fan mania caused by social media does have some drawbacks.
It must be really, really difficult. I can't imagine what it's like for them, especially Harry, because he is a talisman and he's followed around all the time. Fans know his every movement because of things like social media. You tweet where you are and then half an hour later you've got 2,000 One Direction teenage fans camped outside your front door. I happened to be in Glasgow visiting my sister at university when Harry Styles made an unexpected visit. He was just there to see an old friend, a girlfriend, but not romantically. He turns up to the halls of residence. Everywhere he went, he was hounded by girls, paparazzi. It wasn't all great. Some guys were calling him names. I really got an insight watching him because he was surrounded by people and clearly was a bit uncomfortable because people were knocking on the door, Harry, Harry, we love you, or Harry, Harry, we hate you. And he had to get out. I felt intensely sorry for him. You see the good bits, you see the jet-set lifestyle, but Harry Styles and the rest of the boys have a lot to contend with, and ultimately, the one thing they can't have is normality in their lives. It must be really tough, but there are 5 of them, so they probably share the burden, and that probably helps a lot.
And I think we just kind of keep each other grounded.
Yeah.
You know, we have each other around, and we keep in regular contact with our friends and family. I think that's important.
But the boys have their own very special way of dealing with all the fame and adulation.
A deadly day.
Oh, yeah.
Deadly day. Tell us about Deadly Day. I like Deadly Day. Sounds of fun.
We did originally make it the 22nd of every month is just one day where it's kind of more acceptable for us to be, I don't know, just stupid.
No, we're crazy.
And just, yeah, we just kind of run away from everyone, really.
One Direction's web-savvy fans were responsible for one of the group's career highlights to date. Incredibly, in 2012, What Makes You Beautiful won the award for Best British Single at the Brit Awards, pipping the unstoppable Adele at the post. And it was the 1D fans who voted them into success.
Yes. First of all, we would like to thank every single person that voted for us. The fans around the world have been absolutely incredible to us since we told them that we got nominated for a Brit. And it's an absolute pleasure to collect it. And it's just thank you very much.
Who's going to get the award at home?
We're going to break it into 5. We decided earlier on, yeah, we're going to break the award into 5 and smash it.
Either that or photocopy it, I think.
So who gets the head?
I want the head.
Yeah! Oh, yeah.
Shabba! Thanks again.
Many believe that much of the band's teen idol appeal lies in the unique personalities of each member.
One of the strengths of One Direction is the fact that there's actually 5 very different individual boys involved. Unlike some of the boy bands in the past where they kind of tried to put them together as a group. They wore the same kinds of clothes, they did their choreographed dance routines. With One Direction, the only time they're united is when they're singing in harmony. But otherwise, as well as they get along, they're all very different, individual young men.
But what are the boys behind One Direction really like? First up, it's Zayn. With his movie star looks and sometimes aloof bad boy image, he's probably the coolest and most mysterious member of 1D.
There is no getting away from the fact that Zayn is a beautiful young man. He's got these beautiful long eyelashes, these big eyes, this kind of James Dean, brooding, bad boy look.
He's so beautiful, but when you see the other boys talk about him, they really rib him because I think he is the biggest poser in the band.
Somebody's got to do it.
Not only does he have something like 12 tattoos, but he's also a chain smoker. In fact, he's talked openly, I believe last year, about wanting to quit. The fact that he's also very openly Muslim and has tweeted, about the fact that he's Muslim, that in another way kind of, especially for an American girl, would make him interesting, exotic, different.
He was born to a Pakistani British father and a British mother. He actually had quite a tough time at school. His mother said that he didn't fit in, perhaps because of his mixed heritage, at the first 2 schools he was at.
He's quite quiet. He's quite nervous, the whole thing. You know, he's image conscious. He's cautious about everybody new that he meets. He doesn't let people in very easily. And I think he wants to try and have some sort of private life. You know, you've got to remember that these 5 boys have got the likes of massive pop stars in Britain like Robbie Williams and, you know, people like Bieber that they've probably met in America that are telling them how to deal with the fame that they've got overnight.
When you talk to Zayn one-on-one, he's actually very, very mature and level-headed, and I've actually really enjoyed my conversations with him when they've been one-on-one, because I think when he's in the band, it's very easy for him to be overshadowed, and he says that's why he sort of has this reputation of being aloof. It's not that he doesn't want to talk, it's just that he's a bit more quiet than the other people in the band.
He really likes intelligent girls. He says if he wasn't in the band, then he'd want to be an English teacher because he loves reading books. He also likes drawing, so he kind of likes to keep himself to himself a bit.
Zayn first hit the headlines when he had a romance with fellow X Factor contestant Rebecca Ferguson.
In the year that One Direction came in 3rd on the X Factor, she was the runner-up to winner Matt Cardle. So she was another contestant who did very well, in fact, beat the boys. But she was also significantly older.
At the time, it was pretty controversial. He was 18 years old, she was 24. There was a 6-year age gap. But more than anything, what was most interesting was the fact that she had 2 children. It again made her that much older, or seem that much older, whereas he was still very much a boy band teenager. They both seemed really into each other. It also seemed, however, that they didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know how to handle the attention that came with it. And One Direction were so popular that Rebecca Ferguson got quite a lot of hate tweets, hate mail.
When that relationship broke up, Rebecca was very much unhappy about it. But Zayn very quickly was in a relationship with a sort of younger, hotter pop star, you might say, Perry Edwards, who was in the X Factor later than him and was in a band called Little Mix.
Could she ever come between you? Because we're worried she's the Yoko Ono of One Direction.
It's completely been blown out of proportion. We're just, you know, we're just really good friends.
When Little Mix were on the X Factor a year after One Direction had come 3rd, that's when they first met, and they actually snogged on the Saturday night, I think, after one of the shows. I remember management said to me, please don't write it because you don't want to alienate Little Mix's fans.
Everything about this industry is just mental.
With Zayn and Perry, I think their relationship is or was really genuine, and I think there was a bit of puppy love there, and they shared the same circumstance because they were both on the X Factor, so they had a lot in common. They came together very quickly. I think it was quite an intense relationship.
Since then, Zayn and Perry have had their fair share of ups and downs, not least with one revelation emerging from down under.
An Australian waitress called Courtney Webb alleges that she slept with Zayn. Zayn vehemently denies it. However, there's only so much you can deny it when she's taking pictures of him sleeping. And he's got very distinctive tattoos. Friends of Perry say she struggles with the thought of him going round the world and millions of women are throwing their bras at him and just, you know, they want him. No matter how much he begs her forgiveness, the seed of doubt is there.
I think he's genuinely remorseful about what he has allegedly done, and he's obviously managed to sweet-talk his way back into her arms, because I think that she loves him and he loves her, but I think circumstance will ultimately push them apart, and it's hardly surprising.
I was saying the other day, it'd be good to spend the day in bed, like just to spend the whole day in bed.
Liam Payne is often regarded as one of the more sensible and mature members of One Direction.
He seems to be the leader of the group. They joke that he's called Daddy Directioner because he takes charge. He always seems to be the most serious one.
He's kind of had to grow up fast. I mean, first of all, he had very serious health problems. As a child, he had some severe scarring on one of his kidneys. In fact, he only has one kidney now, so alcohol and any kind of heavy lifestyle is completely out of the question.
Now, this meant he had to get 32 injections daily into his arm to relieve the pain.
In addition, to the seriousness of his health problems, he was also bullied. He's talked openly about, you know, coming home from school with a black eye or having been punched in the face, and ended up consequently studying boxing so he could defend himself in the schoolyard.
He would always come home with, you know, perforated eardrums and a bust nose because he was fighting his 38-year-old trainer. But he got pretty good at it, and it gave him confidence.
Well, I'm seeing somebody, so... But that's not really gossip now anymore, I don't think.
Liam has dated backing dancer for the Saturdays, Danielle Pisa, since meeting her on The X Factor in 2010.
Obviously, any girlfriend of a member of One Direction is just opening themselves up to a whole world of abuse online, and she was probably one of the first girlfriends that got attacked.
Danielle was threatened on Twitter. She got death threats just because she was his girlfriend. And Liam very openly tried to support her against the cyberbullying that she was facing.
Now, the fact that he's been with the same girl since he found fame, and the fact that he stands up for her, perhaps because he knows what it's like to be bullied, makes him a really stand-up, solid guy.
But sadly, Danielle and Liam have since split. The pressures of touring may well be a reason.
Obviously we're out on the road a lot, and when we're out on the road it gets to a certain point where you kind of just, you need to go home for a little bit and just, you know, you miss your home.
He's also a very nice, charming young man, sort of the type of person that if you were a mum or dad, I think you'd love your young daughter to be going out with.
You see his hair in the monitor. It looks so...
What's wrong with it?
It's a new hairdo.
No, it's new. It's new.
It is new. I know. I was surprised. What made you do that then? Did you
Just fancied it for the day, I don't know. Well, for the
Just
day,
for the day.
week now, so
You might be
there you go.
stuck with it for a bit longer.
He's the housewife of the group.
No, I'm a singer.
Oh yeah, sorry. Singer/housewife of the group.
While Harry Styles may be the main focus and heartthrob for British fans, Irish band member Niall Horan has emerged as a true teen idol for fans in the States.
Niall grew up in Ireland and has that darling Irish accent that everyone finds so charming. He also has very much a fresh face, a very clean look. He's been compared probably more than any of the others to Justin Bieber. I think Niall's very happy for that comparison. He's not trying to be something he's not. He doesn't need to be the bad boy. He's very happy to be kind of the good boy in the group. He represents, truly, more than any of the other boys, I think, the kind of all-American good looks, personality, and sweetness that American pre-adolescent girls tend to go for.
He's got the blonde hair, he's got the cheeky smile, he's got his ripped abs. You know, he looks like a typical spring breaker, doesn't he, that's just gone out on MTV and is going, whoa, with his little beer and all the girls hanging around with him.
If you judge it by the amount of dolls they've individually sold out of their merchandise, the Niall doll is the biggest seller. So the mums obviously think, Niall, he's the good boy. I don't mind my daughter having a doll of his.
Niall has always loved to play guitar.
Niall never stops playing
Yeah, to be
guitar.
fair, we need to push that more, because you haven't even mentioned it in the interview.
I keep forgetting. I play guitar on most of the 5 or 6 songs in the album.
Yeah, actually, which I think is wicked.
Which is pretty cool, and I'm very happy with it. So I play on Live Over the Rail.
He doesn't stop playing guitar ever.
Yeah, are you a little bit annoyed by that, are you, or not?
He's stopped playing
Well,
guitar.
it's just a regular busker now.
Yeah, he
whatever
is.
it
No, that's what
He does his own gigs.
Yeah.
He's actually quite a credible musician. When he was very young, he was given a guitar and says it's the best thing he was ever given. Who knows if it's something that he used to escape with when his parents split up when he was 5 years old. But he said he was always that boy who wanted to pick up an instrument.
Niall is definitely not the innocent boy that everybody thinks he is. I absolutely love it when you see him because he'll be mucking about, he'll be joking. He is the life and soul of One Direction, and you never really know what he's going to do next. Last time I saw him, we were at X Factor backstage last summer in Lisa's dressing room. He turned up, he had a girl on his arm, Amy Green, who he was dating at the time, and he's really, really fun. You want to hang out with Niall.
I think my shirt might be a bit small for me.
I think that the US public have still yet to see the cheeky chappy guy that we all see, that's swearing, effing and blinding, you know, and really joking about backstage. Hopefully in a One Direction movie that's coming up, we're going to get to see some outtakes that will give them the personality that we all know behind the scenes.
Out of all of the members of One Direction, I would say Niall is the one who just can't believe his luck.
We're very lucky to be able to travel the world and, you know, have such a dedicated fan base everywhere we go, you know, so we're going on a world tour next year and we'll be able to see a lot more fans than we did previously.
He couldn't believe it that Katy Perry knew who he was and gave him a kiss when he won an MTV award. For him, that sort of thing just blows his mind.
It's really weird how we've not known each other very long and now we're all literally best mates. We got on really, really well.
Of all the members in 1D, Louis Tomlinson was always the most likely candidate for a life in the limelight.
Louis was really raised in an acting family. You know, he and his younger sisters were kind of put out there on television programs. He was on Waterloo Road. His younger sisters were on Fat Friends. You know, their family was obviously grooming their children for a role in the public eye. And consequently, he's very natural in front of the camera, in front of fans. He doesn't seem to get nervous. He has a really good sense of humor, and it seems to come through everything.
Zayn said that he screamed in his sleep.
Apparently I was screaming in my sleep.
He's done it for the last couple of nights. He screamed like a girl yesterday.
I was just rehearsing in my sleep.
He openly says, I'm the most immature and I'm glad I'm immature. So that says it all, really, in terms of the part he plays in the group. Whenever any of the boys talk about their fellow band members and they've been asked about who they'd take with them on a desert island or who they'd miss the most, they always say Louis, because I think he is the person that kind of keeps them afloat, keeps them entertained all the time. You know, he's played jokes on nearly all of them.
Harry has a major crush on Frankie Sanford.
Yes! Big scoop.
More of an obsession, actually, at the end.
Harry used to fancy Frankie Sanford from the Saturdays, and Louis changed his own number and put it as Frankie Sanford, so that when he rang Harry's phone, it looked like Harry had calls from Frankie Sanford. So Harry ended up having 23 missed calls from Frankie Sanford, thinking that he was in there, and it was just Louis playing a prank.
Louis has a long-term girlfriend, Eleanor Calder, and his mom says, you know, he's always had a thing for pretty brunettes, that she's certainly a pretty brunette. She's studying at the University of Manchester. They seem to be very stable. In fact, recently, Louis' mom even took to Twitter to say how much she adores Louis' girlfriend, how darling she is, and the fact that the mom loves the fact that her son is not promiscuous like a lot of other kind of boy band members out there in the world. Her son is a one-woman man.
Who gets the most attention?
Harry Styles has emerged as the biggest headline grabber in the band. And with good reason.
I think Harry is getting the most attention.
I think it's Harry's hair.
It's the curly hair, yeah.
I think that's where his power is. I think the hair just like attracts the girls.
Without this and the four nipples on nothing.
Harry grew up in Cheshire. His mum, Anne, divorced his dad, Des, when he was about 7, so he was quite young when they split up. And he's very close to his stepdad, and he was happy when his stepdad and his mum married. But he's really close to he's quite a mummy's boy.
When you see Anne, she looks very glamorous, she looks very young, and she is just overwhelmed by his success. She's so proud of him, and actually quite a grounding force, because they're still close.
His mum has done an interview before and said, Harry phones me 5 times a day. You know, it's quite embarrassing for Harry for it to be out in public, but I think he's got a real sensitive side.
And Harry's even been compared to a young Mick Jagger.
When you see the documentaries of Mick Jagger around the same age, a little older than Harry, the resemblance is incredible.
The papers had a field day kind of finding so many pictures of the two of them just looking identical. He's got that same charisma, he's got that same intelligence.
And the fact that he has hooked up with so many older women, you know, 10, 15, 17 years older than he is, would also indicate a certain amount of maturity and swagger that he was able to pull that off.
It's extremely controversial. When asked about why he likes older women and if there's a cut-off point...
I wouldn't go any older than my mum.
Yeah, I think my mum, but yeah.
How old is your mum?
I'm more into girls my age, but that's just me.
Me too. My 44 as of Friday.
So you'd go no higher than 44?
I think he probably would.
It just goes to show that, you know, dating women in their 30s we see as a huge age gap, but Harry's willing to go that bit further.
Harry has been romantically linked to a number of celebrities, including Extra Factor TV presenter Caroline Flack.
Well, I actually broke the story about Caroline and Harry. It was a good story, you know, she was double his age. It didn't do a great thing for Caroline, though. I think she found it really hard.
Well, I get on well with Caroline, and I feel really sorry for her because, again, especially when the story first broke, she got so much abuse. She was getting messages every single day telling her to go away and die, and it was awful. It must have been, I can't comprehend how terrible that must be.
Personally, as a journalist that had written that story, you actually felt quite guilty because you saw what Caroline had gone through, and, you know, I spoke to her about it, and it really was really hard for her to deal with that. And they were a really good couple, and they were together for quite a while.
News also emerged that Harry had had a 3-month affair with 32-year-old DJ Lucy Horrobin.
After Harry and Caroline, or Haroline as they were known, kind of fizzled out, another story emerged that Harry had apparently seduced a 32-year-old radio DJ in Manchester. Actually, it was either before the time he got together with Caroline or just around that same time. And she was married. So this came out in the press about a year after it happened. And obviously there was a big hoo-ha around that. And it was all over Harry. Again, Harry seducing older women.
But Harry's most famous conquest to date has to be Queen of Country Rock, Taylor Swift, now one of the best-selling artists in the world.
Personally, I've heard from a number of sources that it was an arranged thing. It was something that Harry was going to, you know, really get his image up in America.
I wouldn't argue with the fact that they were undoubtedly set up by the record company who thought it would be a good idea. Going out with the darling of the American country music scene and also the pop scene was a real coup for him. However, if they didn't have a natural chemistry and if there wasn't a mutual attraction, I don't believe they would have gone to the Caribbean together one-on-one on holiday. I think they had a relationship. I don't think it ended well. And again, that makes me think it was real, because if it was all prepackaged, we would have had a very neat and tidy breakup, which we did not.
I know somebody who worked behind the scenes doing makeup and said that, you know, let's just say Taylor was pretty heartbroken and annoyed when Harry didn't give her the attention she thought that she deserved.
Harry went on tour and was pictured kissing a girl in New Zealand, actually, my home country. And Taylor very, very quickly ended the relationship at that point because she was quite disturbed by what she saw in this kiss. But Harry pursued her for many months and eventually she gave in. Harry ended up not showing that much interest in her, not returning her calls.
She didn't feel she could trust him. He was getting text messages from other girls. He was on tour. She didn't know where he was.
Taylor probably should have been wise to that. Harry is a young lad in a boy band with every woman in the world wanting to be with him. As soon as I heard about the relationship, I knew it would only be a matter of time before there was going to be quite a messy split.
She's just a girl who's had her heart broken by a guy. Take fame away from it, it's pretty obvious. There's no PR stunt about it.
Every aspect of the band's marketing has been beautifully crafted. And with record sales dwindling in the music business, 1D's merchandising revenue really is reaching for the stars.
One Direction merchandise is massive. I mean, of course, in this day and age, it's not just enough, really, to sell singles anymore because there's so much piracy, it's very difficult to make money off it.
In the wake of illegal downloading especially, you need to find a new way to make money, and merchandising, which Simon Cowell and the One Direction team quickly fathomed, is the way forward. So that's what they've done. I believe their calendar was the most successful calendar ever produced.
They have really revolutionised the whole idea of selling merchandise directly to your fans. Obviously, there's loads of ways to buy it online, but they have also launched a number of One Direction pop-up stores, which often are launched in cities a few weeks before they arrive in town to perform shows. And in these shops, you can only buy One Direction items. There is nothing else on sale.
There was like stampedes of people trying to go in there. The boys weren't even in there themselves, but the fans didn't care because they just want everything emblazoned with their favourite band. You know, the phone covers, absolutely everything. They are a marketing person's dream.
And of course, the 1D boys continue to hit the headlines, sometimes with some rather bizarre revelations.
One of the surefire signs that a band in this day and age is very famous is that there are these kind of weird quirks of social media. Fans have now produced fan fiction about their idols. The most recent one was linked to the fact that Harry is really good friends with Radio 1 DJ Nick Grimshaw, seen out with him a lot of times. So then emerged some fan fiction about the love affair between Harry and Nick Grimshaw.
I don't believe that for a second. I mean, Harry is a ladies' man through and through.
There is nothing in it. They are really good mates. Nick's got the most impressive black book of any celebrity I've ever met. He's mates with David Beckham, with James Corden, with everyone. So they are just good friends.
Ultimately, people who have fame do court controversy. Look at Mick Jagger and David Bowie. And that's the sign of a great pop star or a great star, that you talk about them.
As with all global celebrities, the boys have been romantically connected with other big names in music. A friendship between Liam and X Factor winner Leona Lewis recently grabbed the headlines.
The only sense of scandal that's ever really hit Liam was around a rumoured relationship with Leona Lewis, because he had been dating the dancer Danielle Pisa for some time, who's very beautiful, and they seemed to be getting very serious. And then they broke up, and within days it was reported that he had been on dates with Leona, and perhaps the relationship was developing.
From what I hear, they did meet up for lunch, they did get on, there was perhaps traction between them, but I think they both realised that it was too much of a risk to take, and ultimately they wanted to be friends more than anything else. Very
quickly, actually, Liam was back with Danielle, and they had sort of reaffirmed their relationship, I guess. So I don't know if it was a case of Liam just needing a moment to work out if he actually did want to be single.
I do think it was a publicity stunt. You know, you have to remember, when you're this famous, all you have to do is have a conversation with someone else who is famous. And the next thing you know, it's all over Twitter and you're getting married.
It just seemed really weird because she did have a single out at that time, and she hadn't been doing that well for a long time. And One Direction are the most famous band in the world, so it's not going to do her that much harm to suddenly be seen going out with Liam.
If Liam and Leona's relationship was a PR stunt, it was a good PR stunt, because Leona Lewis's career hasn't nosedived, but she probably needed a bit of a pick-me-up. And who better to be linked with than someone in a boy band who's taking over the world? And for Liam, I guess it does his kudos no harm, because, you know, it's this older, attractive girl.
Take Me Home, One Direction's second album, was released in November 2013. To date, it has sold over 4 million copies worldwide and reached #1 in 37 countries.
It's fun. We worked very hard on it, and it's not a million miles away from the first album. Kind of a similar sound, everything just a little bit more beefed up. Guitars are heavier, drums are heavier, and we personally think that the songs are better.
So on the first album, One Direction didn't write much. Now, that's very common when you're coming out of a reality show like X Factor, and you're much more focused on the marketing and also getting songs that are really good. But for the second album, they were much, much more focused on songwriting.
The second follow-up album was a little bit more rock-inspired. It wasn't quite as innocent as the first album. As they age, as they get into their 20s, they're going to have to transition from the teenage pop band. You know, Justin Bieber now is very different from Justin Bieber at 15. And it's a very tricky time. You know, look at what happened with Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, transitioning from that young pre-adolescent fan base to a fan base that's growing up a little bit.
The boys headlined a sold-out show at New York's Madison Square Garden on the 3rd of December 2012. Tickets for the event sold out in less than 10 minutes.
The Madison Square Gardens concert in particular, they would say, and they told me, was the performance of their careers so far, the performance they've been most proud of. They put most into it, and they sort of worked a very special set list for those nights, because for them that was really proof that, gosh, we've made it in America now. We can sell out Madison Square Gardens.
Little Things was the second single of Take Me Home and reached the top position in the UK charts.
Little Things was a departure for the band because it was a little bit more, it was a ballad. It was a little more slow moving. It was a little more sensual. You know, the curve of your neck. These are the little things about you that draw me to you. It was more sensual. It was maybe a little more sexy, but it also was the boys kind of demonstrating that they can do more than just bubblegum pop songs. They can also do ballads. They can also do kind of songs with a more serious nature. And I think that the reason Little Things was interesting is the fact that it did so well. It shows that their fans are willing to embrace them in more than one genre.
One Direction's song Little Things, written by their mate Ed Sheeran, a complete change in tempo and really kind of gets to the bottom of, you know, girls and how they feel about themselves, and ticks all the boxes in terms of what a woman wants a man to say about them, because it's saying, I think you're beautiful. You see this in the mirror, but I think you're beautiful.
Any music expert was thinking, okay, you've had your up-tempo songs, when's the love lyric song going to come out? And Little Things was it. And it was a lovely song. The lyrics were beautiful. It was, I see you squeeze on your jeans, but I still love you. To me, you're perfect. Everything about you, and went through the kind of face and body. And again, every girl thinks, it's me, you're speaking to me. And that is so, so clever. Not to sound cynical, it's clever, but also it was sang beautifully by them and showcased the fact that they do have vocal talent.
In February 2013, One Direction released a cover version of Blondie's One Way or Another as the comic relief single. To date, it has proved to be one of the most successful charity singles ever. The band performed the song at the 2013 Brit Awards.
They came across as quite down to earth, and their performance of Teenage Kicks was wonderful. They were at the party having a few drinks, but they don't really go out and get really drunk because they're aware that they have a responsibility and they don't want to let their fans down.
That evening, the boys also won the first ever Brit Global Success Award.
This award is absolutely crazy. Just thank you so much, it's incredible, thanks.
I thought the boys came across wonderfully at this year's Brit Awards. They didn't look too cocky. And they have every right to be cocky. Ultimately, there was a prize created for them for global success.
They did seem very chuffed that they'd got this Global Success Award, and rightly so. But you felt like there was a bit of impishness to them. They are in this world that they can get away with anything they want, pretty much. And I know after they'd gone and accepted the award, I think they were meant to do radio interviews and all sorts, but they were just running up and down the corridor, you know, amusing themselves. And I think they've probably become a bit of a law unto themselves now.
Tonight has been amazing. It's just so you know, I stood this awkwardly because I was trying to smuggle the Brit.
On Saturday we open up our world tour here at the O2, so it's going to be a great year. Why'd you whisper in my ear? So yeah, and that doesn't finish till November, and he's telling me to say I'm Irish. We've got the movie coming out and the world tour, and I love Ireland, and it's going to be a very exciting year.
A few weeks later, they kicked off their Take Me Home tour in Europe, North America and Australasia. Tickets were sold out within hours, all around the world.
Even more successful if possible, over 100 dates this time, and this has really cemented them as a global phenomenon. It's been massive in America, in Australia, over here in Europe. It's incredible. Fans are just going absolutely wild for these boys. There's nothing they can do wrong, really.
You're one of the loudest O2 crowds we've had.
If their management are to be believed, One Direction have notched up an incredible 23 million sales worldwide in less than 2 years, including 14 million singles, 8 million albums, and 1 million DVDs. They are quite simply a global phenomenon. The boys now have a millionaire lifestyle that they could only have imagined in their wildest dreams. But Simon Cowell's team is determined to keep their feet firmly on the ground.
In my job, I've interviewed them at various different points throughout this crazy journey that they've gone on, and I've never found that they've become arrogant or that they've become cocky, or actually, most importantly, that they've sort of lost the joy and the excitement and the verve for what they're doing. They completely understand that they are literally going through the best experience in the world.
People like us don't get to do stuff like what we're doing very often, and we just feel so grateful to, all the fans who've put us where we are, all the radio, music channels who've helped us along the way, and we're just so grateful to have this massive opportunity, and we're having fun and working hard, and hopefully it keeps going.
Now said to be worth a cool $50 million, One Direction embodies everything a boy band should be. And with the backing of one of the biggest music maestros in the world, it looks like they could be around for quite some time to come.
Simon Cowell needs One Direction almost more than they need him now. And he is well aware of how much of a cash cow the boys are and is grateful to them, but also he gave them that platform and they'll always be grateful to him.
I don't think anything else that Simon Cowell does will really surpass what he was able to do with these fresh-faced boys from the UK.
I think One Direction definitely have a chance of longevity. The key point is that they don't start hating each other, and they're not even close to that point yet, because actually they are still genuine friends.
If their songs evolve and they kind of grow up with their fans and become a bit more mature and let a bit more of their, true personality and feelings out, then there are several years to go.
When I talk to music experts and say that I think Harry Styles will be around in 20 years, they laugh. They say it's just a pop band. He's got a shelf life for a couple of years. Absolutely not. There's something about Harry Styles, the way he looks, his charisma, the way he carries fame, the controversy around him, that means he will be around.
Probably one of the biggest global pop bands of all time. Not since the New Kids on the Block days when it was a global phenomenon have we seen a band do this. And for them to be British, to be flying that flag all around the world is truly extraordinary.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.